Welcome back to Living in Austin, Texas. Recently on this channel, we have been talking about places within the greater Austin area that are underrated, that are hidden gems that just don't get talked about a whole lot. They kind of fly under the radar despite having a lot to offer and in many cases being pretty affordable as well. Unfortunately, they just get overshadowed by what I would call the popular kids of the greater Austin area. And those places are popular for a reason, which means we should also talk about them on this channel too. One of those places is none other than Cedar Park, Texas. And when it comes to Cedar Park, Texas, I happen to be uniquely qualified because once upon a time, I was raised in Cedar Park, Texas, and to this day, I still spend a lot of time there. You would think I'm biased as a result. However, if you are a longtime subscriber to this channel, by now you should know I keep it real and I am brutally honest. And so yeah, in this video, we are going to talk about Cedar Park, basically giving you the cliff notes of what you can expect before potentially relocating there. But before we can do that, in case you're new here, my name is Frank, I make the videos happen, and I am partnered with our closer, Caleb Reitmer, licensed agent, and together we help people just like you wanting to relocate to the greater Austin area find that perfect spot. So don't hesitate, whether you're 9 days away or 90, reach out to our team however you want, whenever you want. That is what we love to do. So yes, the cliff notes, if you will, a general overview of Cedar Park, Texas. And what better place to start than its location? You gotta know where you're going, right? So Cedar Park, Texas on average is going to be right around 25 to 30 minutes away from the heart of downtown Austin. With bad enough traffic, or just call it rush hour, that could be maybe 35 to 40 minutes, but not usually any worse than that, unless of course you are dealing with a horrible wreck or something of that nature. But yeah, usually 25 to 30 minutes, just a straight shot down that 183 freeway. And then if we're talking about the proximity from Cedar Park, Texas to that North Austin tech hub, which I bring up because a lot of people who relocate to the greater Austin area are doing so for jobs in tech. And while a lot of them, yes, work in downtown Austin or perhaps just remote from home, a lot of them happen to work in that North Austin tech hub. So proximity from Cedar Park to that tech hub is on average going to be right around 15 to 20 minutes, an even shorter drive than downtown. So if that applies to you and you're going to be commuting, rest assured it basically is a hop and a skip away, at least when compared to a lot of the horror stories we've heard from clients who used to do commutes in either California or New York that would take 1 to 2 hours each way twice a day. All right, up next, let's talk about the things to do in Cedar Park, Texas. And unfortunately, this is the part of the video where I will be brutally honest because, listen folks, Cedar Park, Texas is the cliche, quintessential textbook definition of suburbia. If you're looking for a place in the greater Austin area, other than downtown Austin, of course, to have a fair share of things to do so that you're never bored, I would not recommend Cedar Park, Texas. I would sooner recommend Round Rock, Texas, which is second only to downtown Austin in terms of population in the greater Austin area, a plethora of things to do, or I might recommend a place like Georgetown, Texas, which yes, could be considered a suburb. However, Georgetown is more of a town, right? It has a downtown. It has its own fair share of things to do. When it comes to a place like Cedar Park, unfortunately, that just is not the case. Now, to play devil's advocate, in the spirit of fairness, what you can expect from Cedar Park in this regard would be, firstly, parks, no pun intended. You will have a lot of places in Cedar Park to just go and hang out outdoors, really pretty places to cycle, to walk, to have picnics, etc. And then you will have your Costco, you will have a movie theater, you will have H-E-B's galore, you'll have your chain restaurants, that type of thing. I don't mean to give the impression that it is by any means sleepy, old, or run down. Cedar Park is nice. It started really peaking and booming with its development in the 2010s. So for example, that aforementioned movie theater is really nice, right? The Costco is gigantic and still feels new, even though it probably opened a decade ago, that type of thing. Cedar Park is going to feel like nice suburbia, not rundown old population of 500 suburbia. I also don't mean to insinuate that Cedar Park is necessarily bougie either, because it's not Westlake, it's not Lakeway, it's not known for wealthy, affluent people. It's just newer, it's just pretty, it's just nice. That's all I'm saying. But anyways, yeah, that is what you can expect from Cedar Park. The schools, residential neighborhoods, shopping, eating, parks, and that's pretty much it. However, there has been a recent development in Cedar Park, which is called the Bell District. Basically, there's a part of Cedar Park which is very old and run down, has been for decades at this point, that is basically getting a facelift. It is becoming this new project that is going to mix more parks, walking, residential, retail, office space, that kind of thing. It's going to be this new hub of Cedar Park, which is pretty exciting if I'm being honest. However, at the present moment, I think they've only completed some of the space, some of the walking. I think there's a brand new library, which is pretty cool. But otherwise, a lot of the attractions for it will be rolled out in 2026, 2027, 2028, that kind of thing. It's a multi-year project. So that is the silver lining in terms of Cedar Park having its fair share of things to do. However, I think the bottom line doesn't change all that much, because even when Bell District is completed, it's still going to mimic a lot of the things I already mentioned, just kind of in this newer, nicer place for them. So yes, quite a mouthful, but that is what you can expect regarding the things to do in Cedar Park, Texas. It might be up your alley or it might not. Okay, keeping it moving, the next talking point is actually the answer to the question of why do people move to Cedar Park in the first place? What is it known for above all? And that would be the schools. The schools in Cedar Park, Texas, it doesn't have its own district in terms of the Cedar Park Independent School District. The schools in Cedar Park are zoned for Leander. And if you've been a long-time subscriber to this channel, you will know that the Leander Independent School District is one of the most sought-after cream of the crop districts, not just in the entire greater Austin area, but in Texas itself, this gigantic state of Texas. The district is that nice. The analogy I've always used is that they're almost like private schools just without the uniforms. You know, private schools in the sense of quality, in terms of resources, in terms of boosters, that type of thing. And honestly, it wasn't until I grew up and was exposed to the world and met people and traveled and stuff like that, that I really began to see the contrast of other people's public school experiences. You know, broken ACs, homeless people sleeping in stairwells, chalkboards, outdated technology, that type of thing. Contrasted with a district like Leander, it's just night and day. You know, they have football stadiums that rival some college stadiums. They have brand new auditoriums for performing arts, things like that. And you know, another strength of the Leander district is that a lot of their schools are going to be newer. You know, a handful of them are from the old days of Cedar Park or Leander, but most of them have been built in either the 2000s, the 2010s, or even still in the 2020s. And of course, the old ones would be updated, they would be renovated to also stay nice. And if for whatever reason you don't want to take my word for it, use public information. There's a website I've always used on this channel to make videos like this one called niche.com, and it gives you all kinds of information, including, yes, the schools. And when it grades schools, ironically, it gives them letter grades, like a C+ or a B- or a B+, that type of thing, and it can be very harsh. In the greater Austin area, to my knowledge, there are only 2 districts among the many that niche.com gives either an A-, an A, or an A+ to. All the other ones, as mentioned, yes, get C+, B-, that type of thing. One of them is the Round Rock Independent School District, which gets an A. And then, of course, yes, the Leander Independent School District gets an A+ from niche.com. And I tell you, if you've made as many videos as I have by now over the years talking about these places to live and their school districts, you would know that is an exceptionally rare feat and is very, very impressive. So regarding schools, there you have it, rest assured. You know, in some other videos we make like this one of other places in the greater Austin area, this category of the video is a certain place's biggest weakness. And in the case of Cedar Park, it is, I would say, its biggest strength. All right, last but certainly not least, let us now talk about the affordability of Cedar Park, Texas. In other words, the median home price and what you can expect in that regard. In the case of Cedar Park, that has changed quite a lot. I'd say, in the past 10 or 20 years as Cedar Park has really boomed. As mentioned earlier in this video, you have your places in the greater Austin area that peak at different times, right? Pflugerville, for example, I would say peaked in the 90s or the early 2000s in terms of its development and, booming. Leander, Texas is booming right now in the 2020s. I would say it really started happening about 5 years ago. And yes, the case of Cedar Park, that started booming in the 2010s. I would say especially between 2010 and 2015. So, for example, when my family relocated once upon a time to Cedar Park, I want to say it was 1998 or 1999. That was back when you could buy a house for a bag of chips and a soda, and it stayed that way for quite a while until, yes, Cedar Park really started booming. People really started catching on to how great the schools were, and the rest is history. So, as of now, the median home price in Cedar Park, Texas fluctuates, but is right around $500,000, which just baffles me, I'm still considered relatively young, but I'm also old enough to remember when it just was not like that. But as mentioned, for good reason, those schools alone and the neighborhoods that surround them really are that nice. But yeah, as a result, that does make Cedar Park among the pricier suburbs in the greater Austin area. It certainly is not among the most expensive by any stretch of the imagination, but in a lot of the recent videos we've done on Pflugerville, on Buda, that kind of thing, these places have price tags in the 300s. I'm talking median home prices that start with the number 3, not a 4, not a 5, and in many other cases, 6s and 7s, looking at you, downtown Austin. So ultimately, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It is up to you to decide whether or not that price tag warrants what you get from living in Cedar Park, Texas. If I'm talking with my biased hat on, it is a great place to live. As mentioned, you have the nice parks. It is really pretty, peaceful, safe, great schools, all that jazz. But, if I'm taking off the biased hat and looking at it more objectively, I do think there are other places like Round Rock, like Georgetown, that have great schools, perhaps not as A+ niche.com cream of the crop, but still very respectable schools with a plethora of things to do and that are still as safe, or at least comparably safe, with lower median home prices. So that's basically my assessment. At the end of the day, it might be right for you for all of the aforementioned reasons, or it might not. And if it's not, that's a good thing. It means you have a good idea of what you're looking for. Either way, once again, that is what we are here for. Helping people just like you wanting to relocate to the greater Austin area find that perfect spot. But again, the only way we can do that is by you reaching out to us. So don't hesitate. Whether you are 9 days away or 90, reach out to our team. Whether you shoot us a text, give us a call, send us an email any day of the week, any time of day. It is what we love to do. And of course, in case you're new on this channel, we talk about living in Austin, Texas, the greater Austin area, the good and the bad. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and ringing that little bell to get notified anytime we put out a new video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Click the like button if we've been providing any value for you. Share it with anybody you know who wants to learn more. And until the next one, you guys, my name is Frank. This is Living in Austin, Texas, and we will absolutely catch you later.